Hello, I just want to take a minute to introduce you to some of the highlights of the APA manual. Hopefully you've all bought a copy by now. It should be the 6th edition as things have changed since it's the 5th edition. So in 582, we're going to spend a little bit more time with the formula of APA since we'll be using it throughout the entire year in the research projects that you'll be doing. And lots of my former students believe that this is my true deep passion, and it is, but it's also the formula in the Convention for Education. And so I want to make sure that you are fluent and comfortable with this style. Not everyone uses it, but in all of your academic domains, you all have some rules and algorithms, templates that guide the work that you do. Similarly, this is the one for education, and so we want to come up to speed with the basics of that and let you really get to know the manual well. And so I'll walk you through some of the common things and some features of this text that I think are really helpful. So there's some pages that I'm going to highlight from the print edition, and I'll go through each one individually now. So the first page that I really encourage you to bookmark is the sample article on page 41, because this is where you get to see it all put together. And for me, I need those exemplars, and it's a really useful way to kind of check, is this starting to come together as is accepted by the standard formula? The next thing is that headings are very specific in APA when you format a paper, and so pages 62 and 63 really outline those. There's 5 possible headings, levels of heading. Not all papers use them, and just a useful set of pages to quickly reference as you are working throughout this year. The other thing is that for both in-text writing and then for your reference list, there's some basic citation styles. Page 177 does a really wonderful job of breaking it down for when you're using an author's name in text, and how many authors there are and where in the text it comes. There's just some conventions, so I typically point out page 177 for students to bookmark, so that you can quickly find that and not have to remember all of that information. The reference examples on page 199 to 224, this is where when you're formatting your reference list, which is all the sources that get mentioned in your paper, this is where you're going to want to go to, and you're really going to want to use that table of contents. You can see it begins down at the bottom of 193. And you're going to want to figure out what kind of document am I looking at, and therefore then what is the way that I format that for a reference. So again, easy to bookmark the beginning of that chapter since it will be used again and again. And then the other thing that is sometimes helpful is on page 228, kind of gives the big picture. It connects back to that beginning example manuscript of how do you format this big paper. And in 582, we won't be doing as large of a paper, but you will use this in 586 and 587. So again, a really helpful place to just come back to as you're trying to work through those pieces. A few other pages, secondary sources. So when you're writing, you're typically trying to draw on a primary source, so a journal article. But sometimes you have a journal article where someone's quoted a different study, and that's called a secondary source. This is how you would format it. In general, you want to avoid it, but it does come up from time to time, and people often struggle with how then to format it. So just wanted to point that out. Another thing to be careful of in APA is anthropomorphism, where you are assigning an inanimate object human-like qualities. And so this is on page 68 and 69, and sometimes we say things like, the study found, the research said. And really a study and research can't say anything, it's the people that have to. So you might want to go to the author's name. Park and Wilson, 2017, found evidence of or the authors reported. So that's something you'll see in your work in APA in this section of class, is just trying to avoid those kind of statements and assign those attributes to the people that are doing the work. Another thing, sometimes people ask about kind of the standard formatting for APA. The standard is really a 12-point font. Typically people use Times New Roman, but that's not set in stone. The typical format for a page is 1-inch margins. And in this class, we'll typically work single-spaced, which is not true APA. In your final paper in 587, we'll move into the double-spaced. Couple other things just to note as you're writing in this course. You want to try and avoid slashes. So things like math instruction was / is, or people see it, you see it all the time, like engaging / interesting. That sort of informal writing isn't going to work as well in this context. We're going to work in past tense for literature reviews. You'll want to pay attention to number formats in APA, which is on pages 111 to 118. There's just some standard conventions. As you're writing in APA, you want to try and avoid the air quotes. It does little to help your point. It doesn't make it more convincing. And then avoiding contractions when possible. So the authors did not versus the authors didn't is preferable in APA. What I've done here, and I'll give you access to these slides as well, is I've just given you about 5, I think there's 5 sentences here, where one of these issues comes up. Feel free to take a look at it, try and find the issue, and then work on revising it. If you want to send it to me, you're absolutely welcome to. I'll give you some feedback. But really just to get a hang of how these things come into play. So hope this helps to just frame the work we'll be doing in APA and give you some places to look.